Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Michael again. Today we're going to be talking about getting started in Fusion 360, and we're going to actually make our very first part. We're going to make this part very simple. It's going to be a very simple bracket piece. This is actually a very common type of piece that people will actually start modeling. More so because it's easier to see on a two-dimensional level. There's not a lot of special features. It's more so just kind of like a flat plate with some holes in it. All the measurements that we're going to be using, I'm just going to kind of make up in my head because I don't actually have any kind of bracket that I'm looking at making at the moment. So go ahead and fire up your Fusion 360 and follow along if you would like. But we're just going to kind of talk about my workflow, what I like to do, and just go over some basic um, ideas and maybe some tips and tricks that I use to model a bracket. Uh, Okay, so getting started, the first thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and save your piece. You see up here, I just called it bracket test piece. In order to save, you're just going to come over here to the save icon. Um, Once it's saved, you will actually just, you'll select like a location for it to go to, you'll name your piece, and then from there we'll go ahead and save it. Inside the Fusion 360 software, you see we have a timeline at the bottom, and we also have kind of our breakdown tree list. It sees right now we have a component here that's the bracket test piece. Of course, we have an origin that we can turn on, which we will be using here in just a minute. And of course, as we continue to build, add more bodies and components and sketches, you'll see this kind of this bracket tree get bigger and bigger. So the first thing that we're going to do when creating this bracket, and a lot of the pieces that you'll create and you'll model, you'll always start with the sketch. So we're going to come over here to create sketch, and we're going to left click. From here, all it's looking for is a plane. Typically for like a 2D bracket, I'll actually just go over here to my cube. I'll click top down and I'll select and highlight this plane and left click. From here, it'll actually bring us into our create a sketch or our sketch section. And at this point, we can go ahead and actually start making shapes. So for us, we are actually going to be making a bracket. We're going to make this simple. We're just going to make it either a square or a rectangular bracket. You can see up here for the create section, we have a line, a 2-point rectangle, fit point spline, which is a little bit more advanced. We'll talk about that in a later video. A mirror where you can actually make a feature and then mirror it across a line or an object. That comes that comes in handy a lot, especially when you're building bigger components. And then you also have your center diameter circle and then your sketch dimension. If you click the drop down list here, you get some more options. You get a point, an ellipse, a polygon, arcs. So there's a lot there. There's a circular pattern. So today what we're going to be doing is building a rectangle. For this particular example today, we're just going to be using a 2-point rectangle. But keep in mind, you also have 3-point center rectangles. In my own work, I usually primarily just use 2-point and center. But there is, of course, a case for a 3-point. So we're going to go ahead and left click on 2-point. You can see now we have our cursor here. You can see as we get to each section in the grid, it kind of highlights it with like this blue square. This is where we'll actually place our first corner. So we're going to go to our origin point, which is right here. And we're going to left click. And as soon as we left click, if we just move our mouse away, you can see we're building our rectangle. So there's two ways that you can do this. First of all, if you see right here, the blue highlighted, it says 4 millimeters. We can actually change that to 3 and it will shrink. If you click tab, the tab key, you can tab over to the other. So if we want to do 3 by 3, it'll do it that way. Or what you can do is if we go back to a rectangle here, you can actually just drag and click it pretty much anywhere you want to. And then from here, we'll actually hit D. And what that will do, it will actually bring up our sketch dimension. If you're not familiar with the keys, you can always come up here to sketch dimension and left click. And then from here, we can actually start applying dimensions to our rectangle or our square. In order to do this, we'll have to left click here where it's highlighted blue. and then we'll come over to here, to the other side, and you can see as we drag down, it gives us a distance here. From here, we'll left click, and then we can actually put in our distance. So we will say 4 millimeters here, and then we'll go top and bottom off to the side, and you can see we have 4 millimeters here. So now we have a rectangle that is 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters. Keep in mind, if you're not familiar with that system, you can always come in and say, like 100. You can always come in and say like 2 inches, and just put an IN at the end of it, and it'll actually go up to 2 inches. If you make a mistake, you can always just come up here to the undo button, and you can actually undo and get back to where you originally were. If you want to delete this line, you can just select it and click backspace. Go back to D, we'll put in 4 here, and then we'll be good. So that's a very simple way of creating your first rectangle. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some center diameter circles, because we want to put holes in our bracket. So we'll left click this, and we'll come here and we'll left click and drag out our circle. From here, we'll just say we want a 1 millimeter circle, or we'll actually say 0.5 here. And then we can come back and repeat 0.5. I'll put one kind of off here because sometimes you won't be able to put them in the exact same spot, and we'll show you how to clean that up here in a second. So we have 0.5s everywhere. Going back to our dimension, so we'll click D. We'll go ahead and dimension the circle at 1. We'll do it from this way to this way at, as you can see, 1. And we'll just repeat this process for all the circles. So now you see when we do this, this one will be way bigger. It's 1.2. And you can see we can come here, and we can go to 1 also. And then all we're doing is basically just creating a dimensional sketch. Once we're done creating this, we'll be able to actually extrude this feature and kind of actually build some, actually build our first bracket. So when we're done, we're happy with our sketch. You see we have all of our sketch dimensions in here. We have all the features that we want. We can go ahead and click Finish Sketch either up here or down here. But we'll go ahead and click Finish Sketch. And we'll actually hide this origin because I don't want to see it anymore. So now if we zoom around, we have a sketch here. We can hide this sketch if we come over and do the drop down menu. You see we have a sketch 1. We can hide that. We can hide all the sketches at once. Down here in our timeline history, you can see that we actually have sketch 1, and we can actually name this if we want to. We can also edit this sketch. So just talking about the basics, the two that you'll probably use the most is the rename and the edit. The rename is just for naming it, so you can always go back and reference it and make it easier. It just kind of depends on your design flow. Keep in mind that whenever you highlight over this, it'll actually highlight your sketch for you, so you can always kind of go back and find what that sketch actually was pretty easy. If I go to Edit Sketch, I can go back into my sketch. So if I want to make some adjustments, I can come back in and make some adjustments to the sizes of my holes, to the width of my square, of my bracket, so on and so forth. And that's why it's really important to try to get in the habit of putting your dimensions in, so that you can always go back and change things really easily. But we'll be able to see that a little bit better here in a minute. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come up here to extrude. So what extrude is going to do is it's actually going to build some depth, or add some depth to our sketch profile or our faces. So we'll left click this, and you see we have the whole entire profile here. We can also go into each of the holes and build up. I'm going to left click just everything except for the 4 holes, because we want the holes to actually go all the way through. So if I build up 0.5 millimeters, and if I click OK, it'll actually build that as a body. The reason I know that is because off here to the right side where it says extrude, you can add this as a join, a cut, an intersect, a new body, or a new component. Right now, it's just going to make it a new body. If we wanted to make it a component, we can. The difference between those we can talk about at a later date, but for our case, we can go ahead and just click new body. Also, from over here, we can extrude only one side, like going up, or two sides where you get two arrows to where you can build both ways. And then, of course, a symmetric where it does it on both sides equally. For our case, we'll just do one side. The extent type will just be distance for right now. Now, if I was extruding this to another object to connect a piece, I would click to object or just go to all. But we're just gonna go ahead and click OK there. So now you see we have a bracket. Like this is actually technically a completed bracket. Of course, you can round off corners and stuff if you want to, but this is a bracket. Moving a little bit further on for this video, we're going to go ahead and create another sketch. And instead of the plane being on this origin line here, we're actually going to make the new plane on the face. You see it kind of rotated on us, so we can come up here on the right side to click to rotate, kind of get that straight back up. Click top, so we're top down, and then we're actually going to create, let's just say, another center diameter circle in the middle here, and we're going to make this guy 1 millimeter. You can see it's quite kind of in the center, but we're not sure. We can always go to dimension, go to 2 here, and 2 here. That's one way you can do it. Another way is making it concentric up here to our constraints, which we will talk about later, but you can make it concentric to the center point, which will bring the circle in the middle. But we will talk about that at a later date. So now that we're centered up here, we can go ahead and go to Finish Sketch. And you can see now we have a sketch here that's a circle on top of this face. You can see if I hide that sketch, I don't see that circle anymore. So now we have 2 sketches here. We have 2 sketches down in our timeline. So we'll go ahead and unhide this. We'll go to Extrude. We'll click this feature in the middle. You see how it highlights gray. From there, we can actually just drag up, let's just say 1 millimeter. Actually, let's just say 0.5. And you see now we have this join highlighted. So if I join this together, it'll actually make the original bracket face. It'll actually make the original bracket face and the actual part all in one. If I click new body or new component, it'll actually make them 2 separate bodies. So if I click join here, it'll make it all one body. You see, if we go up here to body here, we still only have one body. So if we highlight, everything leaves. Now if I go to my extrude, and I go to edit feature, and I actually make this a new body, that's okay, depending on what your design's doing, but now you see we have a separate body here that we can actually hide, and they're not joined together. There's other ways of actually assembling joints and components in rigid groups, but that's a later video, more advanced topic. So in our case, all we're going to do is edit feature. We're going to join this and click OK. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was just an introductory to kind of, getting started in Fusion 360, making a bracket. So go home, practice. Let me know in the comment section below what else you would like to see. If there's anything else that I could, kind of touch on more, any kind of topics, just let me know, and we can make a video about it. But thank y'all so much for your time. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.